I want to bring your attention to something else. I've created this colors array so that I can actually use some predefined colors in my sketch. Now, I got these colors by going to the coolers.co website. I think I've shared some of this in class on how much I love this site. Get through some of this. We'll just go straight to the generator. And the reason I love this is you can just hit spacebar and get a whole bunch of neat colors. Once you see something you like, you can go to the view palette and you can actually just copy the RGB values for each of the colors in the pattern. And so that's what I've done here in the template, and that's available for you to use. So let's use one of the colors in that array. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the first indexed element of that array as the color to use for those circles. So if we run the code, you can see now it's using the first one. If I want to change it to a different one, I can change that to the first or the second. And you might start to think, well, maybe we could introduce some randomness here. So you can see here that I've defined a new variable called random color, and this neat random function built into p5js will just pick a random element of a list that you give it. So if you have a list of a whole bunch of different things, you tell it when the input is that list of things, and you call random on it, it'll just pick a random element of it. And so I'm now filling the random color. So every time I run this, you can see I'm now getting a different element of that array, which is pretty cool. Now, one thing that bothers me here is that the number of rotations, it's not quite making it all the way around. If I want 10 rotations to go all the way around, then I can actually use that to tell me how far I need to rotate for a full rotation. So if 360 degrees is a full rotation, and I know that I want to do 10 rotations all the way around, then I can rotate 360 divided by that number so that 10 rotations is exactly a complete circle all the way around. So that's looking great. That's looking great. So look at that. I get a perfect number of rotations all the way around and a complete circle. Now, right now I'm plotting only the point 3, 2. Maybe I want to plot more points than that. So I could go in here and I could choose a couple other ones. So maybe I want to do the point 0, 1, and maybe the point, let's do 2 and maybe -1, so we get even a little more of a pattern. Let's plot that and see what happens. Ooh, this is really starting to look good. And I can actually go up here now. Maybe I want to do more rotations, so 12 rotations. And every time I run this, I get a different pattern, a different color. And so you can see again, I kind of have another bit of repetition in here. And that repetition, again, is crying out to me to use a for loop. Like, don't do the same thing over and over again. So let's try to use a for loop, and let's throw some randomness in here. Let's make it so that instead of telling it which points I want it to use, let's have it generate a couple random points. So before we put in a for loop, let's just try introducing this randomness. So now we're defining a random x and a random y, and ooh, that's a little confusing. It's kind of hard to see what's going on there. That's tricky. Okay, so this still isn't doing what I want, and part of the reason I'm realizing is that I only want to pick some random points once, and then I want to plot that random point at every single rotation. So I want to go all the way around with those same random points because that's what was giving me those really interesting patterns before. So I need to rearrange this just a bit. Okay, so now what I'm thinking is I have chosen a random x and y coordinate, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around a certain number of rotations, and I'm going to plot that same random point at all of those rotation points all the way around. Let's try it out. Okay, that's getting a little better. And so notice now, look at that, I'm getting some really cool patterns now. And what I might do is this might be too much of a range. Maybe for the y, maybe I don't, maybe that's too much variation. Maybe change that to 4. Does that change anything? I don't know. Maybe this is even too much. Maybe I don't want to rotate that much. Let's go over maybe 3. There we go. So now all those patterns are kind of fitting on my canvas. That's pretty cool. And now what I'm thinking is it would be nice if I have it so that it uses a different color. So right now, this is actually taking 3 random points. How many do I have? 3, let's see. 3 random points. It's plotting each of those points 12 times all the way around. Let's even see, let's make it 30. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, wow. Oh, really cool. Look at those, all those random patterns just being generated automatically. It's pretty neat. Let's do something else. Let's make it so that this random color is being chosen for each specific location, so that each circle has its own random color. Look at that. And so now you can notice now we're getting different colors for each of those dots. I'm going to turn off the stroke because I actually just want the color. I don't want any line on the outside. That's looking really slick. Awesome. What if I were to change the size as well of each of the points? So inside of this, I could let circle size be a random number between, let's say 5 and 12. And then I can use circle size to be the size of each circle. And so now you can kind of see, ooh, that's really interesting. So now we're getting different sizes all the way around, and it was perfectly symmetric, and now it's not. Let's move this instead out here. So maybe we want each point to be the same size. Notice that. So we're getting some really interesting stuff happening. Let's use a bunch more points. Instead of 3 points, let's do 8 points. Oh, wow. This is pretty neat. Look at that. And 50 rotations. Every single one is totally different. Wow. And so you're seeing that as we introduce more randomness in the color, in the arrangement of the points, we start getting even more patterns. We could even make the number of rotations for each dot a variation. We could say let num of rotations equal a random number and have it be between 5 and 30. And you'll notice that I like using variables with lowercase and either camel case, which is this, or snake case. I forget the name of it. And so I just define my constants up here. The things that are going to be the same through the entire program go up here. So that's that. And so I'm going to take this variable and paste it here so that we get a different number of rotations for each one. Let me hit save, and let's see what that looks like. Oh, wow. Oh, I was not expecting that. That's very interesting. Oh, that's why, because I am not actually doing the rotations the right way. So number of rotations is the number of times we're going all the way around. Let's just do that. Oh, wow. I'm really excited about this. Remember, it is just this one function that is drawing the grid line. So if I turn that off and I start generating a bunch of these, you can see I'm now getting a bunch of very different patterns. Every one is different. So we have some great code happening here. And what I might want to do is capture this code so that others can use it. And this is what you are ultimately going to do once you've played with this a little bit. So I have saved this. I'm going to take all of my code and I'm going to go back to my repository. And you can see we're in this Advanced Automation 2021 branch. I go to p5js tools. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call this emw keeps auto-correcting. Circle art. Fix that. And this is a JavaScript function, so I'm going to call it .js. I'm going to paste in my code, and I'm going to maybe modify this comment and just say that this sketch is located at, and I'm going to put the URL in there in case someone wants to see it live. So there's the URL. I'm going to do that. I'm putting my initials in there. And I'm going to just say, this is what I ended up with at the end of playing today. So I'm going to commit to a new file. And you can see that in my repository now, I have created this new JavaScript file. And I'm going to do a pull request because I think it's so cool. I want to see if the other Evan is willing to pull that into his repository for the class. So I'm going to do a new pull request. And I'm going to say I want to take eweinberg.vn.p5js tools. I want to take those files and I want to ask to see if, not that we pull it into the main because I want to leave that code the same. I want to pull this into the advanced automation branch on the original repository. So you can see, so I'm going from p5js tools, advanced automation 2021. I want to pull that into the advanced automation 2021 repository on my master repository over there. And so you can see the difference. You can see there is some code that is exactly the same. Oh, sorry. No, this is a brand new file, so this is a new file, and so I'm basically asking for permission for that code to be pulled in. So I'm going to create that pull request. And so now I wait, because that repository is owned by my other account. So I don't have any control on whether or not that merge is going to happen. So let's take a look and see what that looks like on the other side. Okay, so here I am on the main repository, the main branch rather, of the original repository. You can see there's no changes here. If I switch to the Advanced Automation AA 2021, you will see this doesn't have that new file in it. It still has the original square starter.js file, because that's what I originally put in there. But I can look at pull requests, and I can see that, oh, this other account has now requested that I create this new file. So let's view the pull request. And sure enough, I can say, I definitely want to approve this. I want this in my project. So I can do merge pull request. I can leave a comment to say this is something that I definitely want to do. I could say no. I could close it. I could say I don't want that to happen. But I am going to merge the pull request. All right, and now if I go back to the repository and I go back to the AA 2021 branch, there is that file. And so this is a way that you can create a new file and request that it be pulled into this repository. And that is something that I'm looking for you to do yourself as you play with this on your own. So take some time, play with p5js, make something cool, and then I want you to make a request to send a file into this repository so we all can check out what you put together. Good luck.